quickly make up my own, and it was really freeing because then I could also tailor it much more to the actual chapters. And then it became a vehicle for, again, Issue to have a bit of a say in them and sort of signpost them. And the rest is just fun. The definition there, maybe I can show it. The dictionary definition, but they don't always follow the accepted form. So, for instance, I have one about body, which I call an adjective, and then say that it's versatile. So I'm trying to give you an idea of some of the underlying issues or themes that in terms of Carly's trans, that we cannot assume what a body is until the person tells us. And it was just my fun. Maybe that's my authorial voice. Okay. So they appear like this. I don't know if you can even see it.
What page?
One in here.
What page? Page.
What page? This one, 96. But there are many of them.
Yeah. Thank you.
And now I lost my reading page.
How long did it take you to write the book, from conception to having the first draft in your hands?
So I started in 2006 when I was in that hateful place, and
were you there throughout the writing of the book?
Oh no, I left. I only lasted a year. I quit. Oh my goodness, no, imagine.
And were you still writing after you left the place?
Yeah, I was. And then I kept stopping and starting because I lacked discipline as a writer. And then I started writing something else, and my best friend said to me, how you do one thing is how you do everything, and you have a finishing problem. So I went back to the yearning so I could finish, to prove to her that I've cured my finishing problem. So it was 10 years on and off, 10 years from writing till the moment that they sent it to print.
How long? How long did it take? It took about 4.5 years because that was my PhD time, and then to find, and then we edited again for Cassava, so it was some time. It shouldn't have taken all that long, but anyone who's done a PhD, now wow.
So I'm always interested in the journey from the conception to the finishing. Of course, in your case, and in many cases, of course, sometimes you don't know where you're going, you just start. But I want to know if there's any time where you thought you knew where you were going with the story and the story changed in your hands.
So it was right in the beginning. I didn't know it was going to be a story about kind of spirituality. I kind of had an idea of what was going to happen to the character. And there were many other characters that came and went as well, because, I was growing in those 10 years, and suddenly my politics had changed and I had evolved as a person. And so I killed a lot of characters, and they didn't make it. But what it was in 2006 and what it is now, two completely different books. I think the only person who made it is the main character. Everybody else, was left out, and then I brought in different people. Even her mother is different from the mother she had when I first started.
Marubini, right?
Yeah, Marubini.
What does the name mean?
Marubini means a time long ago, like an ancient civilization.
What about you?
I say this a lot. I'm not a planner, I'm an arriver. So, which, in terms of writing, so it arrives when it comes, so I have to find it. I have a very strong emotional sense of where I want to end up with the book. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't put it into words, but I know what journey I want to put down. And I think that actually stays the same. It's just the plot that I need to arrive at the plot along the way. So I didn't have that. It's funny. I don't think I've lost a lot of characters. I think I gained a few. Very later on, I added a few more. No. So yeah, it was pretty much that, just finding out how to convey this emotional growth in plot.
There's something else I wanted to ask you. I know that you're based in London, you've lived there for a while, so I understand much of the description about the London scenes. I wanted to ask about the Port Harcourt, the aspect where Carl comes to live in Port Harcourt. What kind of research went into that, and how was it for you?
Yeah, I went to Port Harcourt, and that was one of the things. So part of the story is in Port Harcourt, but specifically in some of the areas where we have devastation due to oil exploration. So I wanted to go myself to the Niger Delta. So I found a reason to make the plot work so that I can go to the Niger Delta and find out for myself what's going on in this country, or specifically in that area. Yeah, so I went, I met up with an activist who took me around, and he told me a lot about the activism on the side. It was a very Very interesting. And yesterday, my half-brother, asked me how it was to go to the Niger Delta. I said it was really scary. And I realized that I'm not cut out for investigative journalism because I don't have the heart. There was times that my heart was pounding because we were in some fenced-off area, and outside is somebody with a machine gun, and there's oil spills everywhere. And I think, when you and tanks everywhere. So if you shoot this thing, we're all going to blow up. And I was like, I'm never going to be an investigative journalist, that's for sure.
All right, thank you. I wanted to read parts of your work, and then I'll have a few more questions, and then we throw it to the audience. Please, if you haven't got the books, you should get them.
Should I go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay, so I'm taking this from the beginning. It's a very good place to start. My mother died 7 times before she gave birth to me. I'm grateful for that corpse that somehow always seemed to resurrect itself. My father is gone, but his smile is alive on my brother's face. There is no life without death. The two rely on each other, and we rely on them both for our purpose. A new mother knows her purpose when she holds her baby within her and in her arms for the first time. A man's work has its purpose in death as part of his legacy. Why then do we love the one and despise the other? Why do we sacrifice so much of the present to hide the past? Why do we take away the future's knowledge of itself in order to make the past seem perfect? My brother only knows a father when he looks in the mirror. The yearning haunts him. My mother turns away from the traditions of the past. The yearning confuses her. I speak as only half of myself. The yearning hurts me. The life in me came at the cost of another's, but I refuse to apologize for that. A part of who I used to be has vanished, and now I'm faced with the possibilities of who I could be. The yearning never stops till we embrace everything that brought us here. In our quiet denial, the yearning devours us. My grandmother often says she regrets giving me my name. Children always live up to their names, and you did more than live up to yours. She shakes her head sadly and laughs as she says this. It's an unbelievably hot day in Soweto, and Nkunu is on one of her rare visits to us. She's never been shy to share her dislike for Soweto. My child ran away to be here. I don't like this place. I never will. Nkunu was always laughing, even when she was saying things that seemed tragic. Your mother was having a difficult pregnancy, and you took a long time to arrive, she would tell me. Such a stubborn child. I loved listening to my Nkunu tell the story of the day I arrived. Your father had been driving like a crazy man. Your mother decided at the last minute that she wanted me with her. It was a long way back from Petersburg, and he didn't want to risk missing your birth. I also wasn't comfortable with my only daughter being left alone with that ngaka Aunt Togo of your father's at such a time. That's the reason I didn't complain about his driving. Yontatem Hulu had also wanted to be there, but I didn't want my plants and animals left all by themselves. He was the only place I trusted with my plants. Shelling peanuts was the only thing that kept my mind off how fast we were going. Jabu was anxious. New fathers always are. The silence hung between us until we pulled into the dusty yard of the 4-roomed house your parents lived in. Your mother, Makosha, was sitting on the stoop, grinding away at a stone with her teeth. My poor daughter, she looked absolutely uncomfortable with a fully baked baby inside of her. We thought for sure you were going to be a boy because she was so ugly. Togo was boiling something smelly in the kitchen, so I sat out on the stoop. Ma, I'm scared. That was all your mother said to me. Togo stopped staring into the brewing of smelliness and came over to greet me. This grandchild of ours wants to stay the entire 10 months. Jablani busied himself with carrying my bags into the 2nd bedroom while we mocked Kosha about how ugly you were making her. The Soweto people were complaining that it was too hot. I live in heat, grow food in it, and have even raised a child under the relentless sun. Togo said it would rain soon. There was not a cloud in the sky, but I believed her. Your mother had just started her garden. The sun was not allowing it to flourish. There hasn't been rain in weeks. That's rare for Johannesburg summer, was Makosha's explanation for the state of her sad garden. Togo brought Makosha the smelly brew in a cup and sat down next to me. The three of us just sat there, staring at the pathetic garden in silence. Togo looked at me and said, I was telling Makosha that Jabu can help the baby come, but she doesn't believe me. I smiled because Makosha hated talking about sex with me. She knew exactly what my response to Togo's statement would be. Oh, please, Mom Togo, don't get my mother started, she said with red gravel in her mouth. She craved the taste of earth more than anything when she was pregnant with you. I smiled and pulled peanuts out of my pocket. Togo was saying exactly what I told your mother. Just before your father came to fetch me, I was telling one of the neighbors that sex is what would bring you into this world a lot faster than anything else. Sex brings babies into the world all the time.
Yeah, Olumide. You can tell us a little bit about the context.
It's only natural that I should read a sex scene now that you've started talking about sex.
By the way, the sex scene in this one is also, memorable, quite memorable. I don't know why they paired both of them together.
No, I asked Kola earlier on which part I should read, and he said, oh, you like the sex scene. And now I see that there's a thread. So it might be just about yourself rather than the sex scene, but I'm leaving that out there. Anyway, so Carl is in Nigeria by now, and he's been there for a while, and he's finally getting down with his love interest, Janoma. So just the question is where to start or how much. Her laughter reminded him of the way her mouth had tasted, fresh. She turned around and came back up the 3 stairs. This time, I think we better lock it. And without missing a beat, she added, I love the outfit, and pulled him into the room. Their mouths found each other easily this time. Carl was still shy, but not so scared anymore. She hadn't pushed him anywhere. So, did you know or not? I didn't. How? I've only known you for a few days. But you didn't seem surprised. She laughed again. It was a different laugh, thoughtful, slow. I like you. I have a quick mouth, I know, but I was just waiting for you to do something. You are driving me crazy. I wasn't surprised. I was relieved that this is going somewhere. Now he was laughing. You want me that bad? Ha, mister, I've done stuff. I have. And what exactly does that mean? Tell me everything about doing stuff. She looked at him, hand on her hip. Please. He laughed again, not even embarrassed. She was playing and it felt good. Don't torture me, you've won. I'm an apprenticeship still waiting to happen. I'm in your hands. She looked at the floor, then at him again. Her voice was quiet. No, Carl, I'm in yours. Then we are in the same boat. The hands went everywhere, the lips, the mouths. Their clothes piled around them. Their naked skin touched the cement. It helped. It helped cool the heat that rose from the skin. It was strange to have his body all exposed, to show everything. Stranger even to have hers like that, close up. She was so soft it tickled him at each time her skin touched his body, especially when her hands traveled down his arms or up his legs, worse at the back, up the spine. The hair stood, but it felt good. Her hand took his and guided it until he was inside her, moved it so that he could feel what felt best to her. Janoma opened, leaning her back against the wall of the shack, and reached with her hand between Carl's legs. Carl knelt, his hand deeper, his face between her thighs, now until her stickiness spread past his lips, all over his shin, and she moaned, trying to hide the sounds from the outside world. The heat seemed trapped inside their bodies, spreading and trying to push out. Pushed and pushed until her legs clamped his face and she moved her head. Opened her eyes to look at him. He was panting. When he leaned back, her hand slid out between his legs. Not bad, your stuff. Janoma's breath was still rhythmic, trying to quieten down. Yours neither, and both giggled, rolling onto the patches of clothing that protected them from the bare concrete. Carl stroked her hair along the lines of the even rows. It smelled of shampoo, hair oil, and sweat. She leaned on her forearm and looked at him. Her voice was closer than before, different. There was a themness about it. You're buzzing. I know, he replied. What you do to me. No, I mean your phone. The moments that are not... You know how it is these days, so you have to give her, beforehand, sir, please, no social media. The moments that are not savored in full because they stop sooner than they unfold. Then the phone keeps ringing. You know how it is.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we have, thank you. We have about 15 minutes, so we're going to take a few questions, and then I'll ask one more, and then it'll be over. So if you have any questions, just signify, and then we'll get the mics to you. There's somebody here. Tell us your name and then who you're addressing the question to.
Okay, my name is Harriet. My question is addressed to Olumide Papula. I'm interested in your... Okay, I'm interested in the fact that you included the Niger Delta in your book, despite the fact that you were actually terrified, like you said, of investigative journalism. I would like to know, like, what prompted you to take that bold step and what you think so far of the Niger Delta from the period in which you have written the book to now. That's my question.
Hello?
I didn't know I was be terrified. Okay, so I went and I was just very interested, and I met a wonderful activist. And because I'm very tired now, I don't have his name, which is really embarrassing because he was wonderful. And so even though it was terrifying because I felt very exposed, because it was very clear, I'm a very light-skinned black woman on an Okada, on a motorcycle, going through and weaving through, and everybody can see that I'm not a local. So I felt very exposed in that way. But it was also a very wonderful time, and a very, very moving time with that activist for the few days that we spent together. What was the second part of the questions? Can you repeat, because I didn't hear that audio. At that time, I think there had just been the amnesty for the militants, so it had just quietened down. I wouldn't have gone at the heights, and from being honest, of the height of the kidnapping time. So I'm not 100% sure how it is going now. How is it going now? So, because that had happened then, and I think some of the same issues are still going on. Yeah, we're still having, it's the same issues. And although one of the things that I found really interesting, being mostly from Lagos, is that they bear all the brunt of the problem and they don't bear the fruits. Yeah, because it's people from other places who bear the fruits, because there's so much nepotism going on around. People are not educated to take high-powered jobs. So that was very important lesson for me, but also important to put through in the book. I hope that has answered your question a little bit.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, I wanted to ask you something. You're a musician, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. How do you... Well, you told me it was because you hated your work colleagues, but I was wondering if you ever make conscious decisions as to, I have a creative idea, I have something to pass across, what medium works best for this? Do you have that kind of dilemma? Or how do you decide which one to use?
So I struggle to call myself a writer because I'm more of a storyteller, and I just use different voices from time to time. So sometimes I have an idea and I know that this is going to work better as a song than as short fiction. And sometimes the thing comes to me and I can kind of hear the words. I know it sounds like I'm insane, but honestly, I can kind of hear the words and I know that this is going to be short fiction, or this is going to be a novel, or this is going to be a song. And sometimes I have seasons of just being, a musician, and seasons of just writing,
And when people see you on the street, what do they see you as?
I'm just me. Okay. Yeah, so, if you want to call me Black Post,
when I was Googling you, I found Carol Mashigo, I found Black Porcelain, and I found Mohale. So how many more are there that I don't know already?
Well, my name on my ID, one of my other names is Khomotso. That's what my family calls me. I'm a woman of many names.
Okay.
Of many names.
All right. Olumide, I wanted to ask you about the description of the style of writing of the novel as, I think someone said, I think it was on a blog, that if grime were a novel, this is what it would sound like. I've heard about grime, I think it was just last week I heard about it for the very first time. It's a type of music that's common among youth. What did you think about the description? Of your novel as representing...
I liked it. When the publisher said it, I thought this was really funky, and it's elevating my novel yet again. I didn't know that I was doing it, so I was very, very happy, very pleased. So grime is form of emceeing, rapping, but a UK underground style, and it's also relating obviously to younger people and to youth culture. So it fits very well in with who I was trying to represent in the book.
Have young people, gravitated towards the novel on the basis of that description?
I would love that, but I don't think it has happened yet on a large scale. So we have to get Stormzy, who is one of the biggest grime artists, to come and endorse the book publicly. He probably secretly is reading it all the time.
Okay. Any more questions?
He's so shy, he hasn't come out yet. But
is there anybody? Yeah, somebody there. Let's know your name and who you're addressing the question to.
Yeah, hello. My name is Ozon Yebuchi. I'm addressing the questions to you. You talked about hating your job. Yeah, and how were you able to deal with it, as in leaving the job to another thing and the rest of them? Some of us hate their jobs. Like, I hate my own job, and I have to do
a whole book.
No, I'm not writing any book for now. And I have to pick other contract jobs to do, even while I still do my job. So how are you able to deal with it, as in hating your job and the rest of them?
I think you got a better job, right?
Yes, I did. I then worked in radio. So I was only at that job for a year, and it was the worst time because I was starting to get into this story, and I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I do want to be a writer because I enjoy that more than this job. So sometimes you just have to stick it out, although I was only there for a year, so I don't have any pearls of wisdom. Do something you like in between, during your lunch break, to avoid your colleagues. That worked for me.
Any more questions? Okay. Is there anybody there? Okay, nobody. Olumide, I want to ask you, you're German Nigerian, right? And you've lived in London. What's the literature space like in the environments you live in?
In London, it's a very thriving literary scene. I've moved to London more than 10 years ago, so I'm not so in tune what's going on in Germany all the time because it's a bit removed, so you know what's going on. There's a thriving scene, there's interesting stuff happening. Are you looking for names, or are you looking
Not
for
really, I just want to know what, when you're away, what kind of books you read. Local environment, of course, internet has made everywhere, open, but if there's any particular
I like books that push boundaries, whether it's content or form. I'm very interested also in form, that's how people can push the boundary of what a novel is, for instance, make it a novel, is the word. So I'm interested in that. Sometimes they are not always an easy read, so I know it's a little bit like that. But also, I come from performance, so I quite enjoy the performing artists. So
you do poetry as well?
Yeah, I used to do poetry for a long time, and I haven't done it for quite a while. So I've parked that description for now. We see. And the reason why is because I could not find the next level as a poet. I was looking very much for a voice that would represent me as a poet at that time, and I couldn't find it. And I found what happened is I discovered prose, and it freed a new side of myself. So for now, I think it's prose, but that might change again. Whereas, as you said, sometimes when it fits here and when it fits there, so that can still happen.
All right. How have non-South Africans approached your book?
It's so weird. I will confess that when I wrote this novel, I didn't know if my publisher sat me down and she gave me the speech about debut fiction, South African debut fiction, and she said, look man, if this sells 600 copies and if it's in its lifetime, I don't want you to be hard on yourself. So in my mind, I was stuck on 600 copies, and then of course that happened very, very quickly. I think it was within the first 2 weeks, and then I was like, oh, okay, now that the worst didn't happen, what happens next? And I was very surprised that people from lots of different countries were reading it, and because it's a very South African story.
Yes.
But I remember somebody saying that the universal comes from the specific, so people were able to enjoy it even though it's a very South African story. So the response has been great, and the only criticism I get is that it's too short and people want to know what happened in Cameroon.
Exactly. So is there a sequel coming on?
No.
So what are you currently working on?
Right now I'm working on a comic book.
Comic book.
Yeah, I joined a comic book team. They needed a writer desperately. I told them that. They didn't know they needed a writer, but they hired me. So I'm working on this comic book, and I think next year I will. These characters are starting to live in my mind. I'm starting to see something happening. So I think next year, in February, I will sit down and try to be a disciplined writer, whatever that means.
Okay, but you did say you started a different book while you were writing the yearning, and then you had to go back to finish the yearning. So what happened to that second one?
I have a lot of things that you remember I used to have a finishing problem. So I have a lot of things that I started, and I will revisit them. I'm sure they're wonderful, but I'm too scared to go back because I may have been a bad writer.
Okay. So what are you working on?
Officially, I'm working on the next novel. The reality is I'm only a few pages in. So, but no, I will be working on the next novel.
Okay.
That's what I'll be writing on.
All right. Thank you very much, Mohale and Olumide, for a nice discussion. Thank you, everybody, for being a good audience, and we'll see you around in the next one.
That was nice, man. Good question. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello. And thank you very much, Kola Tuboso, for being so amazing and doing such a good job. So, we're nearly there. We have 2 events left. We're going to do the Life and Time series with Ama Ata Aidu. But hey, we've decided we're not going to do anything more